Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we're taking a look at a relatively obscure figure for the Transformer line. We got the 1986 Autobot Warrior, Pipes. Now, Pipes would only be available in 1986. He would be discontinued by 1987, and we would not get a replacement for him. Pipes, like many of the mini vehicles from 1986, is a redo of a previous character. In this case, he's a redo of Huffer, but he's also done in a more radical design. Unlike many of the others, who all transform the same, as you can clearly see, Pipes and Huffer have a slight difference in their transformation. So we can at least give Takara and them credit for coming up with something a little bit different in how Pipes turns out. Whereas, unfortunately, many of the others that came out in 1986 are obviously very cheaply done. But that's an argument for another video. Let's bring Pipes up here to the camera so everybody can get a better look at him. As you can see, they redid the head and body details so that everything appears at the top instead of on the underside. And that way you just fold the truck cab over on the back as a backpack unit. And of course they changed his smokestacks so that they were actual pipes, so they look a little more realistic compared to the ones on Huffer, even though his alternate mode is still a super deformed truck of unknown origin. As for articulation, Pipes only has it in his shoulder. You can rotate his arms all the way at the shoulder. Of course, you also want to be careful about that, since, as you can see, his arms are completely covered in chrome. So you definitely want to be careful with that to preserve how well the chrome looks on him. So always, always, always keep an eye on that chrome. The better it looks, the more value the toy has. That's also personal preference for you as well. As you can see, this one's got very excellent chrome. There is some damage to it, like right here on the right arm. It's got some scratches to it, but otherwise it's very good looking. Pipes has no accessories, so let's go ahead and transform him. First thing we want to do is we're going to take the cab from the truck. We're going to fold it up and over his head. It should clear these two posts here on his chest. And you just press it down gently. Then you're going to push his arms in at the shoulders, making sure that they line up right behind the cab. And then lastly, you push his legs up into the body. And there you have it. Pipes in his alternate mode as a small semi-cab. And of course, we'll bring in Huffer here, so you can take a look at how he compares with Huffer. And like we said, aside from the difference on the smokestacks, they are pretty much identical. And as stated earlier in Huffer's video, due to the fact that Pipes has these weird shaped feet, he cannot link to Optimus Prime's trailer and tow it around like we saw in the cartoon. So, how does Pipes roll around on his vehicle mode? He rolls fairly good. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it isn't bad either. At least he does roll around. So we can at least be appreciative of that much, at least. Now let's take a look at Pipes' card backer. And while this one isn't exactly in the best of shape, it does show how he was pictured, similar to what we used on the title screen. And of course it has an inset here showing you the vehicle mode. This one was apparently sold at a Target store, and he retailed for roughly $3. Turn it around here to the back side, and this is obviously one of the early 1986 released versions due to the fact that it still has the 1985 mural on the back side. And then, of course, up here in the corner, it's to remind you about the rub sign. And we got the 4 stages of how to transform him into the truck. And we got the barcode down here at the bottom and his robot points. Pipes was worth half a point. Then we rotate it here to the side. And we take a look at him here on his tech spec. It's all done up in red to show he's an Autobot, and even says Autobot above the picture. And the picture, of course, matches the one on the front of the card. It gives his name as Pipes, and his function is Warrior. And his motto is, one being's junk is another's art. And, of course, there's a typo on here, as they spelled another with 2 A's. Fascinated by seemingly worthless earthen gadgetry, carrot juicers, musical wristwatches, electrical hair combers, etc. Collects them in an unused corner of ARC, creating a mini museum of American consumerism. Travels at 100 miles per hour, range 400 miles. Hauls up to 60 tons. Twin exhaust pipes emit corrosive gases that can dissolve 2-inch thick steel slab in 10 minutes. Interesting little description there, and of course, him liking all that worthless junk that was always available for sale on television back in the 80s adds a little dimension to his character. The More Than Meets the Eye guides describe it more as he's fascinated by the fact that our culture can build things that are totally useless to most of society, yet we still have to have it. Since on Cybertron, anything that's not dedicated to the war effort isn't being made. At any rate, we put the decoder over the grid and we take a look at his stats. Gives his strength as 9, his intelligence is 6, his speed is 4, his endurance is 8, his rank is 5, his courage is 8, his firepower is 5, and his skill is 4. So, while he's pretty strong and brave, he's rather slow and weak in his weaponry, and thus not a very good soldier in the Autobot army. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Pipes? Pipes is a rather interesting character. He really didn't get much development in the cartoon series, since by then they were more or less phasing out the least likely guys, like these small guys, more in favor of the larger figures, mainly due to the fact that Hasbro wanted to see those guys sell more than these little guys. So, unfortunately, Pipes wound up on the short end of that deal, and rarely, if at all, made any appearances, and if he did, he really didn't make much of a contribution to the episodes at all, nor did they really go into his background. And that's kind of a shame. I would have liked to have seen, at least even briefly in a scene, this unused corner of the Ark where he's stockpiling Earth junk, to say the least. That would have been an interesting thing to see. or to probably see some of the reactions from people, from the other Transformers, about how he's accumulating all this worthless crap that has no real purpose to the Autobots at all, but yet for some reason he's fascinated with it. Could almost see him being Acme's second biggest customer behind Wile E. Coyote. But at any rate, the biggest thing that goes against Pipes is the same thing that goes against most every other Autobot mini-vehicle released in 1986, and that he's a redo of another character. They just basically took a previous character, redid some of the pieces, painted him a new color, and let him out as another toy, which unfortunately is cheap. Although we've all known Hasbro has been very cheap on their toy making, and of course this was definitely one of the major ones that they did go cheap on. But I do give them and Takara a little more credit on Pipes than I am on many of the others, due to the fact they at least did something slightly different. They could do something different with Pipes versus Huffer, and they went for it. So I do give them some effort for doing that. Well, because on a lot of the other guys, they really didn't have that as an option to do without doing more drastic redos of the toy, and that simply just couldn't be done. So we do give an A for effort on what they did here with Pipes. But unfortunately, Pipes is just barely going to squeeze himself into the middle tier. He avoids being in the bottom tier due to the fact that he's at least a colorful character, at least from the way he's described. Liking all this Earth junk that we still seem to keep making that nobody really needs, but according to the television ads, we've got to have it right now. Despite the fact that 6 months from when they show this stuff, we can go out and just buy it at Walmart. But as I said, the biggest hindrance to him is the fact that he's just a simple redo, and unfortunately his stats make him just barely useful to the Autobots as a soldier. So unfortunately, he's a middle tier guy, but just a push or two away from being in the bottom. Anyway, that concludes my review of the 1986 Autobot Warrior Pipes. I hope you all enjoyed the review. If you liked it, drop me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and join up in our ranks. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you'll be notified when I load new content. Also, please share your thoughts about Pipes in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.